In the year 1814, London was a city of extreme contrasts, where wealth and crushing poverty lived side by side in narrow, cramped streets. Near the heart of the St. Giles district stood the Meux and Company Brewery, a massive industrial site that dominated the skyline. Inside this facility sat several gargantuan wooden vats, each capable of holding tens of thousands of gallons of fermenting porter. These structures were massive, reaching over 20 feet in height and held together by thick, heavy iron hoops. The pressure required to contain that much liquid was immense, and the structural integrity of the aging vats was constantly at risk. On the 17th of October, the unthinkable finally happened. One of the iron hoops holding the largest vat together snapped with a sound like a thunderous explosion. The metal rang out through the factory, signaling the start of a catastrophe. Within mere seconds, the massive vat burst wide open at the seams. Over 300,000 gallons of beer surged out instantly with the sheer force of a tidal wave. This wall of dark liquid was over 15 feet high as it crashed through the brewery walls. The physical force of the beer was enough to demolish the masonry and brickwork of the factory building itself. Outside, the streets of St. Giles were packed with people living in small, fragile tenements. The wave of beer hit the neighborhood with brutal and crushing momentum. It didn't just spill, it acted like a literal flood of destruction. Small houses and wooden homes were swept off their foundations as if they were made of paper. Walls collapsed under the relentless weight of the sticky, alcoholic deluge. People were knocked off their feet, struggling to keep their heads above the rising, swirling, dark liquid. The smell was reportedly overwhelming, a thick, nauseating scent of yeast and alcohol that choked the air. Tragically, many residents were trapped in their low-lying cellars and basement homes. The flood surged into these spaces, leaving the inhabitants with almost no chance of escape. In the chaos, 8 people tragically lost their lives during that single, horrifying afternoon. The devastation left the neighborhood looking like a war zone of splintered wood and wet rubble. The cleanup effort took days as the liquid began to harden and dry into a thick, sticky mess on the cobbles. Workers spent days shoveling the thick residue from the streets to make the area passable again. The brewery was eventually repaired and operations resumed, but the incident lived on in the public memory as a bizarre legend. It remains today one of the most absurd and heart-wrenching events in London's long urban history. It serves as a stark reminder that extreme danger can originate from the most unexpected and mundane places. Industrial safety was virtually non-existent at the time, and this disaster proved the price of such negligence. The story of the beer flood is a tale of how quickly a peaceful day can turn into a nightmare of structural failure. We look back at the images of that day with a mix of dark humor and genuine sympathy for the victims. History is often filled with such freak accidents that change the way we view our modern cities. The sheer volume of beer involved is hard for the modern mind to even comprehend. If you were walking through London today, you would never guess that the ground beneath you once drowned in a wave of porter. It is a strange piece of heritage that Londoners still talk about in local pubs today. We have to ask ourselves how many other bizarre disasters have been lost to the fog of time. This event perfectly captures the dangers of the early Industrial Revolution. It is a testament to the fact that progress often comes with a hidden and sometimes tragic cost. Did you know that a literal tidal wave of beer once tore through the streets of London and took human lives? The scale of this event is something that stays with you long after you hear the details. It is a weird, haunting, and completely true account of history. Let me know what you think of this crazy event in the comments.